So welcome back to Silk Aquatint round 2. In this video we're going to build on what we did in the first video. So in the last video we built our plate and we glued down our screen print mesh. We also stained the matrix black, and you're going to see why we did that now. So in this video I am sealing the plate, and I'm also building up layers of transparent paint. For most of you, you'll be using acrylic gel medium. That's really great for this process because it's buildable and can achieve those layers of midtones as well as smooth lights. Unfortunately for me, I'm stuck at home and what I've got is nail polish. So what I like about this is that it does build up, but in layers, and it's also very translucent. So I can get a sense on the plate, or at least an estimate of how that's going to print. So what I've got going here is I'm reinforcing the underpainting that I made in the last video. I think it's a really good idea to lay down your drawing on the plate and sort of put that down. You can use something like chalk or just like a really thin layer of paint in a way that doesn't really affect the final outcome very much, but gives you a sense of where you're going and how you want to fill this in. So with this particular piece, I'm just kind of building up my layer. I'm basically painting in with white, and that's why I've decided to use a light paint on a dark field, just to get that better estimate. And I'm building it up slowly, letting it dry between layers, building it up again, letting it dry between layers, and sometimes I'll paint it on, other times I'm going to scrape it across. It really depends on how you want to build the image. And so the thing to look for here that's so critical is it's not how it looks on the plate, but how it succeeds in blocking the mesh. So if the surface is smooth to the touch and doesn't have any of that mesh texture, especially when you hold it up to the light, then that's going to print light. Even if you did that entirely with transparent and you couldn't see it but you could feel it, it's still going to hold ink differently than the area that's full texture. And so you just want to set yourself up in a way that you can kind of see what you're doing. And it's really helpful to have good lighting while you do this, because you're really looking at the texture of the plate and not just the way the colors are building up. So for this particular plate, I've been putting down more than one layer. Now, I'm kind of experimenting with some new processes here. It's not generally recommended that you use nail polish to paint out your Silk Aquatint, but it seems like it's working pretty well, and I'm definitely going to get some result. I'm not going to, I'm going to share the results with you, even if it's not good. But there's like a non-zero chance that I may need to go back and add more after the first round of printing. So just keep that in mind as you build this up. So this is my image from a hike in Maui. So this is of the valley where one of the volcanoes on the mountain. So it's just a really beautiful place and kind of a beautiful escape for this time. I also grabbed another ingredient off of my shelf here. I've got kind of like a sealant bottle that's a little bit more opaque and super smooth. So I think it's a really good idea to kind of rummage through your cupboards and see what you have. You might find that something, if it dries smooth, it might actually work really well for blocking this. If you're feeling a little nervous about starting your first plate and you're really not sure about how these materials are going to block out, I don't think it's a terrible idea to make a test plate. So you could pull out all of the materials that you're thinking about using. It could be, beeswax. It could be like varnish. It could be, different kinds of paint, different kinds of glue, actual gel medium if you have good supplies, and basically make a sort of test plate where you go down and see how it blocks out. And you can actually be pretty mathematical about it here if you want to. You don't have to go, full experiment, full painting. For me, I think I like to see the experiment with the drawing because it gives me a better sense of what to expect, you know? And so here I can kind of get a sort of simulation of how I might want to use the materials. And although it's not quite so mathematical, because I'm not tracking how many layers of paint I'm building up here. But at regular intervals, you want to be letting it dry and then touching it to try and feel the texture and see if it's successfully building. You can take your fingernails and just run the tip of your fingernails across the surface of the plate. Or here I'm sort of scraping it across with a card, and that's just giving me like a thin layer of the medium. It's sealing it down, but giving me like a really, really light tone. So even just like a thin layer of whatever you're working with should be able to build up that range of tones. It's not just hot or cool, light or dark. You should be able to get like light, dark, mediums, all that stuff. But at regular intervals, you need to stop, let it dry, hold it up to the light, and see how that surface is reflecting. Eventually, you're going to get to a point where you're going to need to stop and pull a print before you can go any further. So here we are looking at that and seeing how the light is reflecting on the plate. All right, looks good.